Sheilagh MacDonald is next. She is a member of the Burnaby Writers Society, and she's writing currently a book about her unique childhood in the Yukon. I know Sheilagh through the Off the Page Writers group, where she's read several of those stories, and they are poignant and, well, hilarious quite often. We're in for a treat. Sheilagh is a great orator and a very fun writer. Sheilagh.
Eric's also listened to some of my more painful attempts, so he's very kind. As Eric has mentioned, I grew up in a little tiny. I was raised born in a mining town, and then raised in a little community. And it was quite a unique community because people were moving out of a different. The indigenous people had been starved off the land, and the Alaska Highway had just come in. It was after the end of the Second World War, so it was there was a white, and at the time it was an Indian community, and so we formed this community of people that actually grew to care a great deal about one another. So I like to celebrate that, and this story is about a little girl, myself, who I grew up in a little town. Of course, there was no TV, no radio, no library, comics that were very worn by the time you'd read them several times. So this is just a story about how that kind of pleasure you get from just some moment of magic. The ballerina dances around and around. She's inside a glass bottle with gold flakes falling all around her, and a music box plays something called the Blue Danube. The bottle is in a shape that reminds me of a fancy Martian lady. There is a gold cap on a long neck, a glass circle for her dress top, and a wide skirt full of gold alcohol. There's a tiny doll dressed in a red tutu dancing inside. To start the fun, you have to wind up the key at the bottom of the bottle. To get the gold flakes to fall, you have to shake it like a snow globe. I've never seen anything so beautiful. I'd do anything to play with that toy, but it's not going to happen, because the ballerina is part of a Bowles liquor bottle our friend Freddie Hart brought from Whitehorse. I stand beside my father in the kitchen at the lodge, and I can't look away. A water glass full of gold-colored drink sits in front of my mother, while Freddie Hart has a shot glass in front of him. The liquor bottle sits on the table between them. Dad and I have just walked into the kitchen. For a few minutes, we just stare. Our mouths are hanging open. Then my father moves towards the table. His hands are on his hips, and he looks cross. Behind him, the ballerina spins, while gold flakes fall all around her as the music plays. "Come and have a drink with me and your wife," Freddie calls. My mother is acting strangely. She's giggling and actually drinking alcohol. The liquid in her glass shines every time she takes a sip. I can't look at anything but the beauty of that bottle. I know now why they say people can't stay away from booze. From a distance, I hear my father say in a crabby voice, "I don't think so, Freddie." Dad turns to Mom. "Don't you have anything better to do, Mother?" Mom settles down in her chair and keeps right on talking to Freddie. She turns to him. "Nope," she says. "Nope, my mother never stops working. Her hands are always busy, punching down bread, baking, washing, and cleaning. I quit staring at this new and wonderful toy and pay attention to the adults. Dad is annoyed, Mom doesn't care, and Freddie just grins. He's a small, stocky man who's always full of fun and practical jokes. He turns to my mother. "Sure you wouldn't want a bit more, Josephine?" "More? I can't see how you'd fit anything else in Mom's glass." "No, this is good for now," my mother says. "I'm savoring it." What is going on? Mom and Freddie are sitting at the table in the main kitchen of the lodge. Right beside them, I can see the pots and pans, the grill, the burners, waiting for my mother to come to her senses and make our meal. At this time of day, 3 p.m., my mother should be hard at work. She's usually roasting meat, peeling a mountain of potatoes, opening cans of vegetables, and putting out the baking. My father moves in closer to my mother. He stands behind her chair and says, "Supper will be late if you don't get started, and there will be 7 people at the table tonight." Tough. "I'm taking a break," Mom says, and she looks over at him like she means business. Tough, tough. Our mouths fall open. My mother is a prairie girl who lived through the Depression. She never stops working. We're stumped. I can see it now, all over in a flash. My mother will take to drink and leave us. This happens a lot in the Yukon Territory, where there are very few white women and a lot of white men. Freddie and Mom look at one another, and then they grin. I hear Freddie say, "Settle down, Holly. Your wife is drinking apple juice. We're just having a bit of fun." My father can go from being angry to being happy in a flash. He pulls his hands off his hips, laughs like he's embarrassed, and says to Freddie, "All right, you bugger, you got me." He sits at the table, and Freddie pours him a drink. I can breathe again because my mother is back. We will eat again. All is well. I turn to the liquor bottle and ask shyly, "Do you mind if I wind up the doll?" Freddie nods, and I lift the bottle to turn the key at the bottom. Tongue sticking out the side of my mouth, afraid I will drop and break it. Freddie gives me a hand. The little ballerina is so beautiful in her red tutu. She dances around and around in a gold snowstorm inside the bowl's liquor bottle. The blue Danube plays on and on.